Well, good morning to you. We really appreciate you creating time for us. News Check begins right now. Be hopeful. It's a beautiful day. Thank you so much for choosing KBC Channel 1 as we kickstart the day's coverage of news and reviews right here on our national broadcast. We want to take you through some of the events that are happening in Kenya's capital, Nairobi, and also have a studio conversation on the issues that are shaping the agenda for the country as we assess the state of the nation. Today we are having this interview just a few hours after the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission gave the BBI initiative a green light to go to the counties. Out of the 4 million signatures submitted by the task force, IEBC yesterday confirmed that they have approved about 1.1 million signatures that were submitted by registered voters. We'll be having that conversation and what lies ahead for the BBI journey, and of course also talking about other matters that are weighty in the country: COVID-19, the insecurity issues that are currently being reported outside the northeastern region. The other day it was Kapedo, and what needs to be done to find a lasting solution to the perennial insecurity issues in some of these regions. And joining me to have that conversation, I will be engaging Honorable Professor Mohammed Sheikh Omar, a humanitarian by heart. He's the Member of Parliament for Wajir South. He sits at the Finance and Health Committee at the National Assembly, and is also a professor of tropical and infectious diseases. Thank you so much for creating time for us.
Pleasure, Serfine.
Yes.
It's good to see you again.
Good to see you too. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you.
It's been a while.
It is.
A lot has happened. And we want to track that and talk about, you know, what lies ahead for the country.
Well, I mean, there is hope. I mean, I'm always, you know, an optimistic man, and there is always hope, and you know, behind the tunnel, and therefore there is a brighter future for Kenya. That's the way I see, for multiple reasons, which I'm going to explain eventually. But I would say hope.
All right, there is hope. And I began by telling you, be hopeful.
Yes.
It's a beautiful day. Of course, we want you to be part of this particular conversation, and you can do that via our social media platforms at KBC Channel 1. And also you can talk to me directly at Serfine_Achieng on Twitter, Serfine Achieng on Facebook. Share with us your thoughts on some of the issues we are going to be raising in this very important conversation, and we will share that to add value in the debate that is going on in the country. Now, we just want to start from the political side and look at BBI. Yesterday, like I said, the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission gave it a nod. Over 1 million signatures have been approved. That meets the constitutional threshold to take it to the next level. Your quick thoughts on this, considering the fact that the task force submitted 4 million signatures, a whooping 3 million were disregarded. Does it send any message from where you sit?
Well, I mean, look, they are always technical. Although I don't have the details of what the challenges the IEBC faced, there is always an issue that happens when it comes into collecting signatures from so many categories of people. There are those that never went to school. There are those ones that went to school but did not append their signatures correctly, or something of the sort. I would speculate that. But obviously, it would have been very important, at least if we would have had 50% of the 4 million signatures, you know, approved. But however, I don't know the reasons behind why those challenges were there and what they are, because I haven't seen the actual report back. But what I can say is that 1.1 million puts it to the threshold that is required legally. So that the next level can go on to under the provision of the Constitution, Article 257(4), I think it is, that requires to go to the next level. That is going to the national, the county assemblies, and then from there on going to the National Assembly and as well as the Senate, and that is where it will head to. But 1.1 put it to the threshold required in the legal sense.
But still, those who are reading detail into this actually, you know, would question the level of confidence the proponents of the BBI initiative had when they were collecting these signatures. 4 million actually spoke very loudly, if you ask me. But right now, only having 1 million, does it dim the light or fade the momentum?
Look, you know, it depends on which side of the fence one is sitting. And that side means that there are those people who will argue that 4 million and then you get 1.1 million that is quite disparity. That is there, and obviously nobody can shed off. Even myself, I see it that it would have been better to see at least 2 million. However, have we met the constitutional requirements for a process to occur, for a conversation to continue? I would say yes, so long as we are within the constitutional provision. There will be always naysayers, and I'm not here to defend unnecessarily, but I'm only saying from the side of the legislative and the constitutional provision, I think we've got the threshold that was required.
All right, you've also talked to us about what lies ahead. It will be taken to the counties, and county assemblies are now expected to be debating the constitutional amendment bill of 2020 within 3 months. What are the chances of it sailing through? I believe it should be at least 24 counties.
At the minimum average that is required is 24 counties, and I think while the pundits will say what they think in many fronts, I think it will face challenges. However, it will eventually sail through, because there are 24 counties that are quite looking forward to seeing that it sails through. I cannot tell you about my county simply because of multiple factors. And these factors are things that have not been explored further onto it. But the reality is that 24 counties will give the nod, and that is where the next level will begin from.
The minimum, at least you have that.
Yes.
What gives you that confidence?
Well, look, we've been examining the current social media discussions. We've been looking at how Kenyans are speaking on the forums and podiums. What we have realized is that many of the Kenyans are realizing that there is a process that needs to take place, and this process has already been sold. While I would have liked to see that it is being sold much better, there has been considerable amount of efforts that's been put in by the two principals to ensure that this is looked at from an angle of what the president wants and his counterpart in the other party, to see that the discussions and the handshake is delivered accordingly. But for me, I would like to see that much more is done. There has been no much publicity and selling of this to see that we have gone, by far more than the threshold that is the 24 counties.
If you look at the key highlights are contained in this constitutional amendment bill, the draft, what is it that you term as some of the points that would be sellable across the counties, something that would entice the counties to support this bill?
Well, you see, the thing that will be selling to some of the counties is some of the people have already said what they want out of it. And to some extent, let me give you the two angles. The two angles that are being argued about are there are counties that are getting more revenues, and there are counties that are not going to be getting more revenues. There are actually counties that are going to lose revenues. And definitely those counties that are going to lose revenues will definitely be taking a tag. And that tag is to say that we've already lost. Some constituencies will be missing out, like Wajir South constituency, Ijara. These are the constituencies that are going to miss out.
Are you part of
Obviously,
the losing?
I am part of the losing. Wajir South is not going to get a constituency. Ijara is not going to get a constituency. That is in Northeastern. And by fact that we have got nearly 300,000 population for both constituencies that I'm talking about, we're still missing out. So I will not shy away saying that I, myself, is at loss on that particular perspective. However, the question that you asked takes me back to why should some other counties be accepting? And these other counties are going to be accepting simply because they're getting more revenues, they're getting more constituencies, they're getting more value onto that. But when I look at the general aspect of it, the provision that constitutional amendment is required on is something that we have to grow from one position to another. And therefore, this is a country that is on development transition. And for it to happen to that, then there has to be conversation always on the ground. I will leave to my people to make the conversation and the decisions for that particular matter. I have said mine time and again on television saying that Wajir South is equivalent to Central Province, Nairobi Province, and Western Provinces combined. That is a large mass. So it is about 64 constituencies combined, and therefore we are losing, obviously. So if my constituency can, 64 constituencies can fit into my constituency, that single constituency, then getting an extra would have been a great thing for us. And therefore, we have put our advocacies forward. We have said it all. But should the country stop for that only? Should I hold back for the country for that? I would say that I will continue to insist that we get extra constituencies. Ijara and Wajir South needs to be considered onto that. That is the point that you have raised with me, saying that including the constituencies, whether we are the ones to miss. Yes, we are.
All right.
Revenues, yes, we are missing. And therefore, it is very important that the core principles, do understand that obviously there is a loss that is being felt
to some areas. So that can actually pose a very big challenge, during this journey across the counties for the bill.
I want my constituents to converse about it and discuss.
But still, let me take you back. When I was having a conversation with you, was it when the BBI report was being unveiled in Kisii? You spoke very highly about the report and even said Wajir South is the home of BBI.
True.
Has that changed?
And look,
bearing in mind that you're citing some grievances this morning.
It hasn't changed to some extent because we are pro-government and we will be supporting President Uhuru Kenyatta to the last man standing for us. That is definitely there. And we have got multiple reasons for that. There are places that we've missed out on, and there are other progresses that are happening in my constituency that the government is trying to support. Albeit I would have liked to see at least an inch of a tarmac before the president leaves, and I would have seen the last mile reaching my constituency. These are two critical matters, including representation being taken care of. And therefore, I will not shy away saying, this is the noise coming from my community. I will not shy away saying that we need to be considered and looked at. But that does not mean that our support for the president, for his legacy, is looked on the left side.
What about your support for the BBI process?
We'll have the support for the BBI process.
What about the BBI process?
No doubt. The president's agenda is part of the BBI, and therefore that is where we say it wholesomely that we have to support the president in this matter.
All right.
Because
so the BBI comes with
because I know further discussions are still going on, and he's hearing. He knows that Wajir South will eventually be split. So the hope is there. I mean, I'm a very, optimistic person, I've always said, and throughout my life, and the progresses that I've always made in life, was that I was always hopeful. And I know it is on the table of the president for this consideration as I speak to you. That's why I'm speaking in confidence that my support to the president's agenda will always be there. And I know that the discussions that we have put forward, the requests that we've put forward, that Ijara and Wajir South are considered, still remains open for us. And therefore, no door has been shut yet.
All right. It's still a matter of wait and see whether that will be considered. But let's open up this document a little bit and look at, is there anything you find useful that would change the narrative for the people, for example, from your constituency or even the northeastern region? If you look at the BBI document, aside from the grievances you've raised, is there anything that is bringing a beautiful promise for that region?
Well, look, multiple factors need to be examined onto that. Constitutional review is something that needs to be looked from a wholesome point of view. So I will leave it as a wholesome point that definitely it has its plus and minuses. But do we weigh it off the negative or the alternative for that matter? I would say that that is not at this particular stage in consideration.
You're a strong advocate for a negotiated democracy, sort of a setup. If you look at the BBI journey and the promise it carries to herald Kenya into a new direction, does it incorporate that idea?
Negotiated democracy is one of the things that I came by, and definitely our elders have decided to sit under a tree and say we will need to give and take, and we will need to give and take in the sense that we will be working out or who represents us. Now, if I can shift that to the current political discussions as well as the current conversation within the country that is about the building bridges, that also resonates towards the negotiated democracy in this case. And this is where we were seeing from an angle, saying that let the people's representative discuss BBI. Let the people's representative communicate to the people. Let that be sold quite clearly by them. And therefore, that is the kind of democracy. Look, Kenya is a homogeneous country. Negotiated democracy may not necessarily be looked at other counties or constituencies. It might be rife and important and has delivered in particular parts of the country, which is like the northern region. Unlike places, say, Nyanza, which doesn't exist there. It is about, you know, a democracy through the ballot only. And for us, obviously, democracy through the ballot still exists, but there is pre-democracy prior to the ballot that really exists.
Is it? I want to understand whether that is genuine democracy if you're not giving me a chance to directly have the decision and have a say on who I want to be my representative in terms of a leader, that a few people sit and agree that we are giving this person the green light to represent this community, and then the rest of the community is left out of that decision.
I'll bring it back to you.
Yeah, just explain.
Before an ODM member of parliament is elected, he or she will go to the party, negotiate for the ticket to be able to contest against any other party within that constituency. Now, that pre-election, is that not a process?
That's a process.
Fine. But now here it comes. What happens with negotiated democracy was, like the way it was done to us, was that there was a ballot that was put there. So it was done through ballot. So each member, it is like the US, the United States, what do they call it? The electoral college. It's like the electoral college. So here, these are about 50 elders sitting somewhere. They represent particular communities, say particular village and the likes. And they say, we want to contest against village C. And this is A and B. So A and B sit together. And they say, we want to contest against C. And therefore, the electoral college are the elders who are representing particular village and subclans. And therefore, they come up with saying that we put a ballot box there. Exactly that was done. And this is already on, on the internet, and you can find it out. So the ballot was done there. And therefore, it is the same as getting a ticket, an ODM ticket in a particular constituency, so that you can contest against a Jubilee candidate. And the same thing. So the only difference is that one is formally done, and the other one is done at the local level. And that is the only difference, and it can be taken it that way. If the United States can have electoral college and decide who gets the ticket for Democrats or the Republicans, then it means it is the same thing that is happening under a tree, but it is albeit being done by, elders that have not been through formal education. They're educated elders. They're educated with the Quran. They're educated with other religious matters. So these are also educated men and women.
Can that work in the national leadership context? Well, the negotiated democracy to agree, let's endorse this person?
Well, has it worked for the Democrats to be able to have a negotiation within the party to get that? Has it worked for ODM, a ticket holder from the village in Ugenya, for example, to decide and say, we are deciding on this candidate for our ODM flag bearer? That is exactly what it is. So saying that Wajir South flag bearer, Clan A, wants to have this, So societies establish their own democratic rules and regulations. And that is quite important to be respected. And therefore, they have already done that for many, many years. In fact, it is important to borrow a leaf from there and understand much better than categorize it out.
As we walk towards the journey of inclusion, the reason I asked you that question is because BBI, actually one of the promises it carries is that it's going to really focus on achieving full representation and inclusion in positions of leadership in the country, and even highlighting strategies on how that can go. As we walk that journey, from where you sit, what do you think is the best way, the best approach that will actually help the country fully embrace that representation, that other communities will not feel left out of the leadership positions that we have? What is it that we need to do to get it right?
You see, I'll take you back a bit. So much can be taken for representation. If you say everybody will represent everybody, it becomes a challenge. So why am I saying that? We have got 6 categories of electorates or electoral posts. And that is from the MCA to the president. So these are 6 posts. Now these 6 posts are representing particular areas within the country. And that is the lowest from MCA, representing a particular area. And it goes through that way. So if you are going to tell me that we need to represent in the election everybody, then that is a huge burden on the taxpayers.
So what's your take then on the proposal to expand the executive to achieve inclusion?
I'm coming to that.
All right.
The levels that are going to be increased is at the national level. Now, there will be no changes that's going to happen to the county assembly. True? There will be no changes to the governor. There will be no changes to the member of parliament except the increase. Of course, let me put away the member of parliament, Senate. There will be no increase on that. And therefore...
There's a woman and...
yes, the woman and man. But that increase is in that means... because 2/3 majority of the gender could not be realized in the parliament, for over 10 years. And the debate continued to actually even make the current parliament illegal. In place. And therefore, that really needs to be addressed through that means. I mean, simply because our communities have not gone to the level, to the Kenyan communities, or even the African society, have not gone to the level where, at the equal level, female are also elected to their male counterparts. And therefore, that challenge is still there. But will BBI address? No, it has only started the journey to address that. And I'm telling you right now, and anybody can, argue about it, it is only a journey that has begun. It will not be a resolution, or it will not resolve all matters at one go. That's where I think.
All right, so those who believe, those who are hopeful that this is actually it, this is the it for us, this is what is going to fix all the issues we are facing as a country, what you're saying is it's just a start of the journey, not the entire solution.
Yes.
If I get you correctly.
That's true.
All right. Allow us to take a very short break. This is actually a news check. We are talking about the state of the nation. I'm having Honorable Professor Mohammed Sheikh Omar, the Member of Parliament for Wajir South. We'll be coming back after the conversation to pick it up and talk about more issues. Stay with us. We are coming back.